So who calls these experts in the Babri group as such?
Yes, because you are allowed to present your experts. So these people were appointed to appear on behalf of the Babri Masjid Action Committee. So in all the debates and in all the dialogues with the government, these historians went. 6 of them: R.S. Sharma, D.N. Jha, Athar Ali, Suraj Bhan, Mandal.
I see. And who's supposed to be arguing in favor of the Ram Janmabhoomi or whatever?
See, the VHP chose its own group. That group included people like S.P. Gupta, who was an archaeologist and very active in the Ayodhya movement, Devendra Swarup, B.R. Grover, who had examined the records, Harsh Narayan, who had studied the Persian accounts of this period. So these were among, each group was entitled to have its own experts, because the people fighting will not know the intricacies. So each group was allowed its experts. So the left historians were appointed to represent the BMAC, and these historians were representing the VHP and the Hindu parties.
So, ma'am, how did the Hindu historians fare in court? Were their arguments accepted more by the court?
Everything was evident. The evidences. The evidence. See, Harsh Narayan. I'll just give you one by one. Harsh Narayan presented the list of histories that were written in Urdu, Arabic, Persian in the 18th, 19th centuries. So they are all there as part of the court proceedings. The archaeological arguments that were presented by S.P. Gupta, they were vindicated by the ASI. So that's what I'm saying. It's very difficult for me to say what was the evidence that was going to favor the Babri Masjid Action Committee, because I have not been able to see any evidence. The literary evidence in Urdu, Arabic, Persian, the archaeological evidence, the judicial records in the Faizabad District Court, the revenue records of the British. So all of these things were presented by the Hindu party, no? Because every party had to give its own. The revenue records were presented by B.R. Grover.
Sorry, I just have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
From the Babri Masjid Action Committee side, what is the strongest argument that they can present? Is there something illegal that happened when the mosque was demolished? Is there any law under which certain activists can be tried? Like what? Can you give some information about that?
No. That is something which is which the secular media and all have played up also. That the demolition of the masjid on 6th December was an illegal act. But the thing has gone beyond that. So that is irrelevant now. And what about the history of that site before that? They said the main thing is that they said the Babri Masjid is built on vacant land. Till the excavations started, they said if it is found that it's built on the site of a temple, we will hand it over. Sayyid Shahabuddin, if you remember, he was so vocal in saying that a masjid cannot be built on the site of a previous religious structure. And if it is proven, we will hand it over. But it was all proven. In fact, when the ASI excavations started and the remnants of temples began to be unearthed, then the BMAC said that, there is not a temple beneath Babri Masjid, there is another mosque beneath it. So that is the extent to which they went. Temple pieces have been found there.
How does Shahabuddin ever say all this? I mean, Gyan Babri Mosque, even the Qutub Minar.
Absolutely.
Everybody openly knows, even the audio, whatever you hire at Qutub Minar, they actually say this was built on a temple complex.
And the point is, you can see the figurines on the walls, no?
Yes.
The pillars, you can see the figurines.
I have photographs now.
Yeah, and the Gyan Babri, the temple wall, they have retained the back temple wall. So it is all there visually. Even in Babri Masjid, how did it start? It started when Bibi Lal went to that site to carry out excavations, and he said that the pillars show that they are originally at that site, and that means there is a temple below this structure. In Babri Mosque also, the Hindu remnants were there. No? The remains of the Hindu temple were visible to everybody.
Ma'am, I've got one question, one suggestion and one observation.
Oh God.
The question is that when you started, you said that there was a terracotta piece of art dated 2nd BC. what is the source of this information?
If you can just give me my book, I'll just show you the picture.
Okay. The second suggestion is, if you can share your findings with us so that we can popularize all these logics in the various social media
This
channels.
is the first.
This is a book you should read.
Okay.
See, this is
Just a 200-page book. You can finish it in a few
See,
hours.
it's- this is the terracotta where Ravan is taking away Sita, and she is throwing her ornaments. All right. Now I'll just show you one more.
It's a very well produced book with a lot of.
My main book is that book on, called the Ram and Ayodhya. Now this is the Treta Ka Thakur inscription, which is in Lucknow Museum. All right, and you can see, and you can see the inscription that was found at Ayodhya. That's so totally different.
Can we buy this book here?
Yeah, you can. It's available for 40% discount. Author's discount. Author's discount.
We bought some books, you can buy it right now and get a signature.
So this is,
Yes.
So the temple that you were referring to, which is present there in Chhattisgarh or in Raipur,
yeah.
is it the same temple which is also called as the Lakshman temple?
No, it's called the Rajam. I'll just give you the thing. The name
Because
is
you
given.
mentioned Raipur also.
Yeah, I'll just give you that I have got that. And just one more thing. This is the FIR that was filed by the Thanedar in 1858. All right. And this is the copy of the complaint that the superintendent of Babri Masjid he made in 1858, and this is the subsequent report of the Thanedar saying that now we have thrown out the Sikhs. So these are original documents which were presented before and it's just a miracle how they survived. And no attempt was made to preserve them. Anything could have happened, termites or anything. But it's just, destiny or what. And these are some of the, these are some of the drawings that Tiffin Thela, I told you, that Jesuit.
Is his book available on the internet?
Yeah, you can order it.
No, on the internet. Is
No, not yet.
No,
Not yet. Actually, my major work is published 4 years ago. It's called Ram and Ayodhya. That's a very thick book. And then the publisher said that, it's because it's all very scholarly and very serious. So the publisher said, please bring out a simpler version. And then this Treta Ka Thakur thing inscription had come in the meantime. And then that scribe, his report that I'm writing from the Janam Bhumi of this. So many little things had come. So he said, just bring a smaller version and add these points.
But what he's saying is a genuine problem, and you have to seek out this information. It doesn't come to you.
That is the problem.
Friends have to initiate you into like this.
No, you see, but the thing is, but it's a indication of the weakness of our movement. That the left has got all the media space for 2 decades. They've written. See, nobody has asked me to write a single article on Ayodhya in new newspaper, and no TV channel, invites people like us because they don't want to hear this voice. And when they are totally in the wrong, they have hogged the media space. And we have not been able to present our case on a wider scale. So this is something for us to learn, that we are not able to manage the media. When all these facts about forging revenue records, is it a small thing that you just forge government records? Who has done it? Nobody has tried to inquire. I cannot go to an office and get the document of 1861. I cannot get document of yesterday also.
Something like this happened in Rajasthan in the case of the scheduled tribes. So there are 2 communities in Rajasthan. One is the Bheels and the other is Meenas. These were supposed to be 2 different communities, right? So there was a single community called Bheel Meena, which was supposed to be counted as a scheduled tribe community. Some smart elect put a comma between Bheel and Meena. And if you look at Meenas, they look more Kshatriyas than the regular Kshatriyas. So today they become the scheduled tribes because of a forgery like the one that you mentioned.
But one positive thing is that, you know, groups like this are emerging and people are coming to listen. They want to know. You know, when I wrote my first book on Ayodhya, you will perhaps not be surprised or surprised to know that no publisher was willing to publish it, because they said it is making a case for the temple. So how can we publish a book which makes a case for a temple? I mean, if I write that the Babri Masjid has a case, then they will all bend backwards to publish it. And I was so, I thought I had written a masterpiece, you know, that every publisher will, you know, grab the book from me. And there, you know, I mean, rejection upon rejection upon rejection. I was devastated. I never thought that this experience, I never thought this would happen to me for this book, because I had done a lot of work on this. Then I was just telling some archaeologist friends, and they said, don't you worry, we will make sure that this book gets published, because the archaeologists were so involved in the Ayodhya dispute. Now, they were digging all the time, and the left historians were abusing them, calling them names. So it was their intervention that saw that first book. And now my publisher says that, you know, there is a growing interest, because, you know, most of us, we lack the courage to openly say that the temple has a case. You know, in the university, for example, I cannot give a speech like this. I cannot, because the point is that I will be geraud or thrown out, or worse will happen. And this domination of an anti-Hindu ideology, the grip that it has acquired over our generation and the younger generation. Because in the universities, the professors teach them particular things. They don't have the time or the patience or the inclination to look for the truth themselves. But the positive thing is that, you know, I am invited to certain places to give talks which are put on the net and where I get some viewership. So from 4 years ago, when I was being rejected, my books were being rejected, to a situation where people do come to listen, is progress, I think.
Don't our universities have some mode of some ethics committee or something that oversees academic misconduct in general? Because this is a wonderful case study of academic misconduct.
I really totally appreciate your idea, and I think it's a fabulous idea.
And you know, in the sciences, if you fabricate data, your career is pretty much over.
Yes.
I mean, this is a commentary on the 70 years of humanities in India.
Absolutely. And imagine a professor saying that Prithviraj Chauhan was the king of Ghazni. And I don't know why jizya was levied. Was it? I mean, these kind of statements are outrageous. And you know how I found these? Because here also, you need to put in a lot of effort. One judgment was for 5,000 pages. So I had to go through this judgment of Sudhir Agarwal, which was 5,000 pages, and mark those relevant portions. And those relevant portions were so long, I thought, puri kitab is pe likh sakte hain. Then I selected from that. But how many of us have the patience to go through it?
Ma'am, so I have two things to talk about. The first thing is I wanted to know a little more about the Vishnu Hari inscription, as in like which king made this temple, if that's available.
See that you just photocopy 2 pages from my book, it's all there.
No, I'll buy the book, yeah.
No, I'm not trying to sell my book. I'm not trying to sell my book.
I will genuinely.
No, it's a very long inscription.
Yeah.
And in fact, on the net only you can get the decipherment. And it's part of the Allahabad High Court proceedings which are there on the net.
Okay.
This inscription says that this was the person who built this temple in honor of, whose father was this, whose son was this, etc., etc. The whole history of that temple is given in that inscription.
Okay. And the second thing is I myself graduated from Delhi University this month itself.
Oh.
And from CBS, College of Business Studies. Ma'am, I've also been a part of the street play circuit of this university, and your college, Garki College, has a very, very talented street play team. And since 3 years, their street plays have been against the Babri Masjid, against saffron terrorism or saffron education, whatever, and stuff like that. Kashmir, everything, all very left-centric. And I know a number of professors, I've heard about a number of professors in the university itself who openly teach things which are very much biased towards the left and anti-right, I'd say. Being biased towards the left is not a crime in itself, but being anti-right and having a propaganda against the right is, I think, something objectionable. So, and I haven't heard of a single professor who is pro-right, at least openly pro-right within the university. So why is it that the people who are pro-left, professors who are pro-left, are given so much space in the formal spaces of our universities, other institutions, and people who are pro-right are often not recognized and are penalized?
See, I don't regard myself as pro-right. I regard myself as appreciative of Indian civilization and culture. That is the fundamental difference between scholars like me. We're not right in that sense. I don't put myself, I think that I'm in central.
Okay.
I'm trying to voice a view of our culture and our civilization, which was a dominant view until 30-40 years ago, when this left Congress alliance took place. Till that time, we produced scholars of outstanding caliber who talked like us. But since 1969, when the Congress government became a minority government under Indira Gandhi, it needed the support of CPI to stay in power. And the left is very, very alert to advancing its ideological position. In return for supporting the Congress party, they said, give us one ministry. And what was that ministry? Education ministry. So all the ministers, they were, either left historians or echoing their point of view. See how they systematically captured the NCERT textbooks. If you look at the NCERT textbooks, it is amazing. The first set of NCERT textbooks were written by left stalwarts like Romila Thapar, R.S. Sharma, Bipin Chandra, Satish Chandra. I read the Satish Chandra's book with great care because I wrote the book after that, which survived only for 1 year because the government changed. In that Satish Chandra's book, I was amazed to note the extent to which he had gone to cover up the ugly face of iconoclasm and to depict Hindu civilization, Hindu culture, Hindu society in the most negative terms. I'll just give you one example. Jahangir ordered the execution of Guru Arjan, and Satish Chandra, what did he write on that? He just wrote one sentence, and I'm quoting him verbatim. He said, after the death of Guru Arjan by Jahangir. Now a student, death by Jahangir, what does it mean? How will a student understand what it means? So this was the extent to which they went. Then when there was so much, when communities became aware of what was happening and they started protesting, then UPA 1 commissioned a new set of textbooks which are there in use in the NCERT, among all the schools till today. That's for 13 years they have been there. And the books are written by the entire history department of JNU. It's not one person like in the past, it's a collaborative effort. All the history faculty of JNU and 2-3 other universities. So it's the so-called cream. And what they have done this time, again I'm talking about medieval India, is that this time they have abolished chronology. So they were very careful this time that we will not show an openly anti-Hindu stance as we did in the past. So what will we do? We will not discuss dates. So you will not believe it. But in the present NCERT textbook, Mahmud Ghaznavi is discussed in the same line, in the same sentence as a Chola ruler. How will a 12-year child know that Arabs and Turks came from outside and attacked India? Because there is no mention. And then it says that Mahmud Ghaznavi attacked temples because they were full of wealth. There is no mention of the religious motivation at all. And it says that Hindu kings before Mahmud Ghaznavi came, they used to attack each other's temples as a routine. So Mahmud Ghaznavi was only following a practice which was already there. This is what the NCERT textbooks say. And in this 7th class textbook, there is no discussion of Vijayanagar Empire at all. Krishna Deva Raya, one of the greatest kings of India, he is not mentioned in the NCERT textbook. Can you imagine? And there has been no protest. Nobody has examined these things. For a movement which calls itself a cultural movement, it has not even looked at these things. And then there is a chapter on towns and cities. It discusses 3 towns or cities: Surat, Masuliputam and Vijayanagar, Hampi. So Hampi is mentioned in a section on towns. Vijayanagar is not there. I'll give you one more example. It says that Queen Razia lived and ruled openly as a queen, as a woman. It does not talk about the resistance to her as a woman ruler. And it says that there was a Kakatiya queen, Rudrama Devi. She had to pretend to be a man to rule. So imagine the negative image that you are trying to portray. So, I mean, it is.
What is this gonfumi between these? What is this? I mean, why are they trying so much?
And,
And Islamists, why?
That is the crux of the matter. The way you have put it, that is the crux of the problem.
But do you have any thoughts around? I don't know why.
It's too dangerous a question for me to answer.
And ma'am, just because it came up, so I would like to share my experience as well as a DU student. Last year there was a conference on Ram Janmabhoomi there, where Dr. Subramanian Swami was the main speaker. Yeah. There was a huge brouhaha by the left-wing students, and I was. Yeah, and it was purely academic, and still I know how I went inside, how many checks I had to get done, and I had to tell my identity. I am from this college. I am coming for this purpose. Kyun aa rahe ho? Aap left wing to nahi? All sorts of things were done, and how intolerant they were, I have seen personally. And not about, just that.
Yeah, they talk about right intolerance, but the intolerance of the left, it has to be experienced to believe it.
And the kind of movement that was there when one of the person who was allegedly involved in anti-national slogans were allowed to the campus, and the kind of movement that was thrown. So I know what kind of biases that take place in the campus. So ma'am, my question basically is how to tackle, when you don't believe in certain things and when you know that it's not objective. So how to tackle those concoctions and how to build your way. For example, if one sits for the entrances of JNU or some other universities, you are, sort of obliged to follow a certain ideology. For example, Aryan invasion theory.
No,
there's not much evidence.
That is the crux of the problem. If you want a career in academics, they will be sitting in the interviews. They will be your guide for PhD. So you dare not step out of line. You have to be very strong-minded to stay on a lonely path. But I still think that maybe slight change is coming because of social media. Because I can reach out. I don't have to go through the university system. I cannot talk in the university like this. I cannot teach in college like this. But then I can talk like this outside the university system. That is the only ray of hope. As of now, academically, the scene is quite dismal. And what I am amazed about is what is the facts that they have presented which have withstood scrutiny. That is the main thing. Isn't it?
Ma'am, could you tell us a bit about how the mantle for the Hindu fight fell to the VHP from the Mahants, and because I hear that even that transition hasn't been the smoothest of.
I really don't know. I can't answer this question. But I think the VHP is full of Mahants also, isn't it?
VHP actually, a large number of founding fathers of VHP, they came from the Mahants. I can say it with a reasonable degree of confidence because I belong to that part of India. And one of my parents actually took part in the events of 1992 actively on top.
Yeah, it was a body of Mahants, I think, and religious leaders. Come. You come in front.
Just a statement by another historian regarding Razia Sultana, Farishta. Farishta, in his history,
Yes.
he talks about Razia Sultana and he says she was faultless except that she was a woman.
Yes, exactly.
And this is the wording of Farishta.
Yeah. But imagine a modern scholar from JNU writing that she could rule openly as a woman and this Kakatiya queen had to pretend to be a man to rule. And how will a 12-year-old child be able to understand what is the reality?
Ma'am, social media पे when you bring up the Ram temple, तो मेरी generation के a lot of people, there is a lot of reaction and very vicious reaction, and part of all that their story is exactly the same. ये सवाल मेरा है, so I'm playing the devil's advocate. Why not build a hospital or a
that is really no solution.
हाँ जी, तो
at all.
मुझे please civilizational answer एक बारी.
No, the thing is that these are sacred symbols of our culture, our civilization, our religion. Ram worship has an antiquity going back before Christian era. And why should we hospital can be built anywhere, but the Janam Sthan temple can only be built in one place. You can build 100 hospitals in Ayodhya elsewhere. How is this? This is a statement of defeat, I am sorry to say.
I agree. Why not move forward? मतलब आगे देखते हैं. This is the other argument given. Let's move forward. Let's forget the past. Let's build a new India, new nation. Why bring all this up?
No. We move forward after we have built the temple over there. What is the problem?
No, but I think before the Gyanvapi mosque
and we are moving forward in the secular sphere, science, technology, medicine, everywhere we are moving forward. It is like somebody occupying my house and saying that move forward. And the point is, when I have proved that it is occupied by you, there is no evidence that you have got in your favor. So this temple, this hospital argument is something that really pains me. Because build 100 hospitals, build 1,000 hospitals, but why only in Ayodhya?
Ma'am, can I say something to add to that? You should ask them why not build a hospital from the money that comes from the charity proceedings after the temple is built. Simple as that. Fire the question back. Anyway, I had a few observations, some additions to wonderful scholarly work that you've done over the past few years. I mean, when people, especially the left historians, start to say that the worship of Ram, the cult of Ram is an 18th, 19th century. I mean, it is actually flying in the face of just traditional facts.
Yes.
I mean, I'm originally from Himachal. Kullu, the Shahra has been going on for more than 4 centuries.
Absolutely.
And Kullu is supposed to be so remote from Ayodhya. I mean, traversing between these places. And the thing is that the original Ramchandra Bhagwan Murti was taken away from Kullu to Rampur by the king of Rampur after he defeated. So there was no desecration of temple. He taken it so that he could actually establish there. And between the two kingdoms later, there was this agreement that, okay, we accept his suzerainty. However, you shall bring the deity Ramchandra Bhagwan to Kullu every year for the Dashera.
You please give me the evidence for this, because I'll just tell you.
Ma'am, this is just an oral legend that we get to hear from him.
Oral is important. I'll just tell you. Can I just tell him, this is the last observation, then I come to your question. The work that I'm doing now, it's related to what you have said.
Okay.
See, left historians have said that they've tried to underplay the instances of Islamic iconoclasm, and in this they have been supported by very many Western scholars, because there is an alliance between Western scholars, most Western scholars, and Indian left historians. And the left historians and the Western scholars, they have said that, at best, in 1,000 years, at best, not more than 80 temples were destroyed. And they say that this Hindu trauma, this so-called Hindu trauma, is something that was invented by the British to create division between the two communities. They said that if the Hindus actually felt anything when this was happening, they would have left some evidence of it. So, my present work is to discuss, is examining what happens.
So I have taken up a number of temples in all over India, about 25, 30 temples for which I could get evidence. And I showed that the temples were too big not to be, too big to be safeguarded. They were such large structures, they had to be destroyed. They were attacked, you could not protect them. But the point is that you protect the murti in the temple, because the murti is smaller. So in many cases, I have found that the murti was taken away by the priests or by the devotees, and the tremendous hardship that they underwent to safeguard the image. And in certain cases, the image was buried. In some places, it was kept in the house of a devotee.
But there are cases where the image was kept away for as many as 800 years.
Yes.
And when the Mughal Empire declined and the Hindus started reasserting themselves, then in many cases the images were brought back and reinstated in those very temples.
Ma'am, in fact, it's a very pertinent observation you brought out, because I was actually going to add to that as well. After the original Ram temple was destroyed, it is believed by a lot of people, particularly in Orchha today, that the Raja Ram Mandir houses the Ram Lalla Murti that was recovered from the Ayodhya side.
And
because the Murti had, it was believed, thrown into the river. The legend of Raja Ram of Ram Lalla coming to Orchha is that the queen of Madhukar Shah, the Bundela king at that time.
And last week I had lunch with the present Raja of Orchha.
Fantastic.
To discuss this.
Exactly.
And I said that why did your grandmother or great grandmother travel from Orchha to Ayodhya in those turbulent times? After all, an image of Ram could be made in Orchha also. So did she bring back the Ram Lalla idol? Because there is a view that the Ram Lalla idol was thrown into the Saryu. Now I said, but the image that is there in the temple is of Ram as king. It is not of Ram Lalla. So he said that it is not a Ram Lalla image. When she went, she said, I'll bring back Ram Lalla. And when no miracle happened at Ayodhya, then she said that I will take Jal Samadhi. And she entered the Saryu river. And when she entered the Saryu river, her foot touched something. And then she came out and she told those people, please see what is there. And it's a 4-foot image of Ram as king. This is the only temple in the whole of India where Ram is worshipped as king and where there's a gun salute every day. Okay. But it's not the Ram Lalla idol. Now somebody else has told me that it went somewhere in South India. But there is a temple at Ayodhya in the early 20th century. The Mahans found that image in the Saryu. You know, the river goes on changing its course. And they said that is the original Ram Lalla image, and that is there in a temple at Ayodhya.
Ma'am, another question, a question that I had particularly, during this whole case and the way the proceedings in the civil suit as they went about happened, one notices, particularly with the leftist historians, a disdain for archaeological evidence altogether, not just here but across,
yes,
I mean, entire spectrum of Indian history.
And you will not find any archaeologist who's a leftist.
Exactly.
Because when you dig out, then you have to give an interpretation, and you cannot say we never dug out anything.
Exactly. And in fact, when you mentioned, and when you mentioned Mr. K.K. Muhammad, the archaeologist who actually has gone on record to say that yes, there was a temple there, he was part of the original ASI team. It is very interesting when he recalls in his own autobiography, excerpts of which have been translated, of his interaction with Professor Irfan Habib.
Yes.
Though that and the fact that we also know on record that one of Mr. Irfan Habib's, I can't call him professor, I'm sorry if your student is plagiarizing and you don't realize what's happening. I mean, Mr. Irfan Habib's disdain for any archaeological evidence, not just from the times of Ayodhya, but even prior to that. Yeah. And that too for even the Mughal structures like Fatehpur Sikri, the Ibadat Khana episode.
That was discovered by K.K. Muhammad.
So I mean, your opinion on why it is important to have, then why is it not important for the present government to, push for better funding for ASI, for other archaeological activity? I mean, I find it
very
appalling that it is not at all even thought
Very
about.
painful question which many archaeologists have also asked me. I can only express my belief that the regeneration of Hindu society will come from outside government sources. It will come from people like us. I mean, there are so many things which can easily be done by the state, but the state has other priorities, so it seems.
Is a project that Sanjeev Sanyal has been pushing for.
Yes.
So that is why, if you can actually help with oral histories, it's very important.
Because it's very interesting that you should mention Orcha, because just last week I went to his house. He is also Madhukar Shah. The present ruler is also called Madhukar Shah.
The king whose time this temple came up in Orcha
Was also Madhukar Shah, and the present ruler is also Madhukar Shah.
And now it's very interesting that they shifted the capital to Tikamgarh after setting up Bhagwan Ram in one of those temples was converted into a mosque for Shah.
Actually, and I found certain miniature paintings of Bir Singh Bundela, who was the first one to, resist, and then also of the Mughals under Shah Jahan attacking Orcha. So I've got some very interesting visuals also this time.
In fact, Lala Harra is a very famous local deity of Orcha. He was the man who single-handedly defeated the Mughals under Shah Jahan. And there's a whole story about how he was poisoned because of the conspiracy by the Mughals.
You know what I'm trying to do, because left historians, they will attack a work like mine by saying what are the sources. So this time I am only using inscriptions, because can you imagine, many times the Hindu rulers who brought back the deity, they were very clear that it should be remembered. So they put the inscription on the temple wall. So inscriptions, eyewitness accounts, temple histories, because many temples wrote their own histories at that time. They wanted to record, how they have overcome this. So I am using these kind of sources. I am not going by oral traditions, except in the case of Orcha, where I am attributing it to an interview given to me by Madhukar Shah. Because otherwise I will say this is all fairy tales and rubbish. And when we say that the Hindus had no sense of history, when I am doing this project, I am quite surprised to see how careful they were in certain things like temples. I'll just give you one example. So in Kolhapur, there is a Mahalakshmi temple. So that temple was built in the 9th century. But before that, that site was also famous as a, Devi site, Devi goddess. So in the 9th century, this Mahalakshmi temple was built, and many kings also used to come to that temple, and on the walls of the temple you can find inscriptions that this king said, I came here at this time, made this donation. It was a very popular temple. Then when the attacks on the south began, some devotees took away the image, and that temple got converted into a district office. So for many centuries, the temple was there but used as an office, and there was no image. Then when the Maratha movement started and the Marathas became powerful, then Shambhaji II, he said that, now we are strong enough and we should restore the worship of Mahalakshmi in Kolhapur temple. And he told his commander, please locate that image, because there is no evidence that the image was destroyed. And they start looking for the image and they find it in the house of a devotee. And that image is reinstated after a gap of hundreds of years in that temple, where it continues to be worshipped even today. So the record is there that Shambhaji has given this instruction to this commander that find the image and reinstate it. So I am looking for this kind of thing where the evidence is there. But I have found so many such cases. That is the surprising part. When we say the Hindus had no sense of history, it's amazing that on things that were sacred to them, how careful they were to record. You know.
You will find this in a number of South Indian
Yes,
temples.
yes.
They are written in old Tamil.
I have.
And every temple will have so many lines and lines.
I have found evidence for about 8-10 major temples in the south through the inscriptions.
आपने एक मंदिर का उल्लेख किया था, सॉरी, जिसमें 800 साल बाद आप बोल रही थी कि कोई मूर्ति
बनारस में.
कौन सा मंदिर है?
I think it is Bindu Madhav.
बिंदु माधव. वहाँ पे 800 साल बाद मूर्ति स्थापित की.
It's there in my book because there are many temples in Banaras where you can find this story, Gyan Vapi.
And how credible is the record of, I'll just take one minute, of a poet called Vidyadhar, जिसको हम फतेहपुर सीकरी बोलते हैं.
हाँ.
विद्याधर को कहा जाता है कि उन्होंने फतेहपुर सीकरी में जो हाथी जो दिखाया जाता है, वो अपने समय में भी उन्होंने उस हाथी का उल्लेख किया है कि जो पहले विजयपुर सीकरी नाम का महल था, उसपे वो हाथी पहले भी था बाबर के.
Actually, there is a person called D.V. Sharma. So he has done the most extensive excavations at Fatehpur Sikri, and he found a full Jain city over there. And when the excavation started and this whole city came up, इतनी मूर्तियाँ मिली उनको, you know, full life size सरस्वती, the most beautiful सरस्वती in India. और इन सब की ना मूर्तियों को दफनाया गया था with the face downward so that they don't get damaged. And can you imagine that he was asked to call off the excavations? So the excavations at Fatehpur Sikri have stopped, but he is a very smart person. He took as many photographs as he could and has published a book which has been published by Aryan Books International. It is called Fatehpur Sikri, beautifully illustrated.
It's already out.
Yeah, came out many years ago.
Namaste, ma'am. My question is.
आगे आ जाओ भाई.
My sort of comment is regarding the temple and images thing. So I think you must have heard of it in Nathdwara. The Srinathji temple was received by the Rana of Mewar, and also in Kankroli.
क्या हुआ है कि जो ब्रज मथुरा के केसेस हैं ना, so when they were attacked, then the Rajput kingdoms were nearby. So the murtis were taken to the Rajput kingdoms. अब क्या है, जो मूर्ति है वो you cannot put in a suitcase and उसकी पूजा होनी होती है. So the Rajput rulers and zamindars and villagers, they provided for the puja of the image during its stay in that particular village. So those records are available, and in many places temporary structures were built for those images because the image was in flight. So those temporary structures are also there. The murti in those structures is now new because the murti has shifted to its other location. For example, Govind Dev. Govind Dev, he left this area around 1669 and he was reinstated finally in I think 1739. So how many years was he on the move? More than 70 years. हाँ. तो कहाँ रखा गया उनको, उनकी पूजा कैसे की, वो records भी हैं. And Nathdwara is also.
I was also reading that, I was reading today, there's a book called Art and Architecture in Bikaner. So there's Anup Singh of Bikaner, and there are many cases of kings of Bikaner. So they brought many of the Jain murtis in the Shatrunjaya hill. So when Anup Singh became powerful to negotiate with the Mughals, he installed many of the Jain murtis in Shatrunjaya and Girnar hills of Gujarat. They are in several temples of Bikaner and Marwar, etc.
This is the last thing, then we close. So Aurangzeb, when he was the viceroy of Gujarat, then you know there was a very rich Jain jeweler who used to supply rare jewels to the Mughals. His name was Shanti Das. So he built a magnificent temple at Ahmedabad for this Jain deity. When Aurangzeb was the prince, he ordered that उस temple में desecrate the temple by slaughtering, and then he constructed some mihrabs in the temple. So it became a masjid. Now Shanti Das was a very powerful person and he complained to Shah Jahan that your son has done this and this is not acceptable to me. Because the Jains were very powerful in Western India, Shah Jahan said that this temple should be restored. Now the Jains said that, this temple is no longer sacred to us because a cow has been slaughtered over here. And the Muslims, they did not have the courage to continue using it as a mosque because Shah Jahan had given an order that it should be vacated. And recently, I read a Persian history which said that the Jain community had hidden those images in an underground place for about 150 years. And when Aurangzeb passed away and the Mughal Empire was in decline, then they brought out those images, and in the Jewelry area, the jewelers area, those images were kept there for worship. So I have the Persian account of this. So these are things which we cannot say that they are not there. So the way to argue now, what I have learned, is to look for their sources. Because at that time, the people who were writing histories were not interested in hiding these things. For them, it was a matter of glory and pride.
Cassie, everything is controlled by that. So one can understand that in India, because of the influence of the politics and because there's this very close network between academicians and politicians, so that's why the narrative is built in such a way. But where do you see people like Audrey Trusch coming in, and out of the blue they come in?
People like
Audrey Trusch, recently she's talking.
No, but I told you that there's an alliance between the Indian left and sections of Western scholars. She is only a recent entry. What about people like Richard Eaton and Richard Davis? Their work was totally against the Hindu viewpoint on this issue of temple destruction. Yeah, yeah. So shall we stop now? Thank you so much all of you for coming and for the patient hearing. Thank you so much.